Imagine this. You're sitting on a train that never stops. The faces around you blur into the cracked leather seats, mouths slightly open, eyelids heavy with the weight of 1,000 unasked questions. Your hands rest on a newspaper from 2017. The headlines haven't changed in years, but you still pretend to read them. Outside the window, the same 5 buildings rotate in an endless loop. You've memorized every crack in their facades. A tinny voice overhead announces stations nobody reaches. You don't remember boarding. You don't know how to disembark. This is the paradox. Your body knows the emergency exit's location. Your fingers twitch toward it in sleep. Yet each morning, you choose the same seat, sip the same bitter coffee, and let the wheels carry you deeper into the labyrinth. Why? Because the devil you know grins at you from the fogged window, a familiar face, whispering that the unknown beyond these walls holds not salvation, but a different flavor of damnation. So you stay, and the train accelerates. Comfort is the poison here. It drips from the ceiling like warm syrup, coating your tongue until ambition tastes like ash. Notice how the woman across the aisle hums a lullaby while sewing her own lips shut. Watch the man by the door who's been just about to stand up for 11 years. What are we so afraid of? Is it failure? Or the terrifying possibility that we might succeed? That we'll have to face the colossus in the mirror and admit we've been complicit in our own captivity? The truth rattles the windows, but no one looks up. You felt it. That primal scream in your marrow when the alarm rings. The way your soul recoils at LinkedIn platitudes about hustle culture. But here's the trap. Mediocrity isn't laziness. It's allegiance to a script written in your childhood bones. Every should and can't was etched into you by ghosts. You don't fear the dark. You fear the light that would expose the costumes you've mistaken for skin. So you keep playing the orphan, begging life's banquet for scraps. When you were born, holding the master key, we worship at the altar of enough. Enough money to numb the dread. Enough validation to silence the howling void. But when did enough become the ceiling instead of the floor? The tragedy isn't settling. It's realizing you've built a shrine to limitations you stopped questioning. That promotion, that mortgage, that hollow icon of adulthood, they're not life. They're anesthesia. And the worst part? You prescribed it to yourself. The conductor didn't steal your freedom. You handed it over, wrapped in pretty lies about responsibility, while your wildest self withered like a rose in a vault. This is how it happens. Not with a bang, but with a sigh. With maybe next year muttered over birthday candles. With Netflix auto-playing your humanity away. One day you'll wake up as furniture, a polished cog that dreams of rust. Your obituary will read "survived by routine," while the eulogist praises your practical choices. But in the silence between words, a question will hang, rotten and unspoken. When did you stop believing you deserved more than survival? When did you agree to trade your epic for a footnote? But what if... No, don't flinch. Lean into that electric terror. What if the exit was never locked? What if the real world is the illusion, and this rattling cage is the cocoon? You've been taught to fear your own metamorphosis, to mistake the tremors of awakening for madness. That itch behind your sternum? That's not anxiety. It's your skeleton outgrowing its cage. The walls are paper, The chains are silk. All it takes is one breath to dissolve them. But first, you must confront the unthinkable truth. You are both prisoner and warden. So here's the great question, echoing through the tunnels of your ribcage. Will you keep numbing the symptoms, or will you rip out the root? This isn't about productivity hacks or motivational platitudes. This is war. A war against the part of you that would rather starve than risk feasting. The next station approaches. Its name is written in a language only your lost self understands. The brakes scream, the doors shudder, and somewhere beyond the tracks, a version of you, feral, radiant, unstoppable, waits. But first you must answer. Are you passenger or pioneer? This is where the poison brews, not in the world, but in the cathedral of your mind. Jung called it the shadow, the cellar where you've buried every impulse deemed too much by teachers, parents, algorithms. You think you've forgotten them, but they're here, hissing through the cracks in your resolve. Why do you cling to borrowed beliefs? Because society is a puppeteer, and you've mistaken its strings for bones. Schopenhauer saw it. The will, that blind, thrashing force in all of us, gets shackled by should. You traded your wildfire for a nightlight. When did you sign the contract? Sartre warned of bad faith. The act of playing a role so fervently you forget you're acting. The masks aren't forced upon you. You carve them yourself, desperate to belong. Watch the office worker rehearsing his responsible adult lines in the mirror. Observe the artist smothering her vision to paint what sells. Huxley's soma isn't a pill. It's the dopamine drip of likes, the anesthetic of I'll start tomorrow. You don't rebel because rebellion requires a self to revolt, and you've outsourced yours to ghosts. Who are you beneath the puppetry? The conditioning begins before breath. A mother's anxious grip, a father's disappointed sigh. They meant well. They were passing along the same disease they'd inherited. Frankl wrote that meaning must be discovered, not assigned. Yet here you are, a Russian nesting doll of expectations. Your true voice was drowned out by report cards, performance reviews, the hissed mantra of be realistic. But whose reality? The farmer who thinks the barnyard is the universe? You've inherited a script where the climax is a gold watch and a slow death by armchair. Why worship a God who demands your diminishment? Time is the accomplice. You've been taught to see it as linear, a straight march toward decay. But what if it's a spiral, a trap that convinces you it's too late, while your soul screams it's a lie? Kierkegaard's anxiety, the dizziness of freedom, haunts you. So you numb it with rituals, the 5-year plan, the 30-year mortgage. The greater the uncertainty, the tighter you cling to routine. But routines calcify into ruts, and ruts into tombs. You've buried yourself alive with the shovel of someday. Who tends the grave? A version of you that died at 25. Capitalism's masterpiece, reducing you to a stomach with wants. Not needs, wants. The treadmill isn't just economic, it's existential. You're told freedom lies in choice. But what good are 50 brands of toothpaste when you've forgotten how to choose yourself? Marcuse called it repressive desublimation, the illusion of liberation through consumption. Buy the gym membership, stream the self-help sermon, order the salad. Feel virtuous, feel in control. Meanwhile, the core wound festers. You've become a curator of symptoms, terrified to face the disease. that you've mistaken existing for living. How much of you is borrowed from advertisements, the most insidious lie that safety and greatness can coexist? Nietzsche's Übermensch isn't born, it's carved from self-betrayal. But you've let them transplant your heart with a beggar's cup. Give me pensions, give me praise, give me guarantees. Frankel's search for meaning becomes a Netflix binge. Huxley's Brave New World wasn't a dystopia, it was an operations manual. They don't crush your spirit, they sedate it. You wake up each day and donate pieces of your soul to Moloch, the god of practicality. What's left? A well-fed ghost, wandering a mansion built on land that was never yours. The maze isn't out there. You are the maze. Cognitive dissonance hums in your veins. You crave truth, but fear its teeth. So you split into fragments: the LinkedIn persona, the Instagram poet, the midnight Googler of existential crisis cures. Jung's individuation feels like a death sentence. Better to stay splintered, safe in your contradictions. But the Minotaur isn't waiting at the center. It's you, the integrated self, the one who'd rather burn the maze than keep circling. Why do you flee from what you most hunger for? Because wholeness demands annihilation first. Here's the secret they buried. Your defiance is alive. Small, yes. Starving, but breathing. It's the part that flinches at wedding vows, weeps at sunsets, laughs too loudly at funerals. Camus's absurd hero lives here, in the crack between what is and what could be. Every time you humor a lie, it starves. Every time you numb a dream, it bleeds. But it persists. Why? Because it's older than your conditioning, older than language. It's the primal I am that no God, no parent, no algorithm can extinguish. The seed knows. All it takes is one crack in the concrete. This is the crossroads. Burn or suffocate. Kierkegaard's leap of faith isn't toward God. It's into the abyss of your own potential. You've been taught to pathologize the itch, to call your hunger delusions of grandeur. But what if grandeur is your birthright? The phoenix doesn't apologize for its flames. Nietzsche's will to power isn't domination. It's the courage to become despite the cost. Yes, you'll lose relationships, identities, the sweet coma of certainty. But in the ashes, you'll find the one thing worth keeping. A self that can't be commodified. The match is in your hand. Always has been. The roots of mediocrity are ancient, but not invincible. They feed on your complicity, your silent yes to lives smaller than your soul. Jung's shadow, Marx's alienation, Buddha's illusion, they all point to the same truth. You are both prisoner and key. The system depends on your belief that you're powerless. But power isn't seized, it's remembered. That cliff ahead, it's not an end. It's the first honest step. The bridge exists only when you stop measuring its strength and trust your weight to the abyss. The void whispers your true name. Will you answer? Time lies. You think it marches forward, but here's the truth. It pools. It curdles. The hours you've killed, binge watching, scrolling, rehearsing regrets, they don't vanish. They congeal into a second skin, a shell that narrows your vision to the next paycheck, the next weekend. Kierkegaard warned that boredom is the root of evil, but you've weaponized it. The crows feast on your stolen years. Notice how your memories blur? That's not forgetfulness. It's the anesthesia of routine. You've mortgaged your future to a god called later. But later's temples are ruins. When did you stop believing in now? This is how culture replicates itself. By breaking you into parts. Your creativity, packaged as content. Your grief, sold back as artisanal candles. Foucault's panopticon isn't a prison. It's a mirror. You police yourself, smothering quirks into marketable skills. The dolls aren't failures. They're perfect products. Their hollowness is the point. You've learned to confuse consumption with creation, to mistake the itch of envy for ambition. But the factory's secret? Its fuel is your dissonance. Every time you silence a radical thought, another doll gets its smile. Watch the performance. The father's screen replays his promotion speech. The daughter's streams a filtered sunset. Sartre's hell is other people was incomplete. Hell is the version of you that others might see. So you starve your relationships of oxygen, feeding them only highlight reels. Love becomes a transaction. I'll validate your lie if you validate mine. The rot sets in quietly. One day you'll grasp a lover's hand and feel nothing but the chill of glass. Authenticity isn't dead. It's buried under the avalanche of your personas. What's the cost of being perceived? Your soul. Neuroplasticity is a double-edged sword. The pathways you walk daily become highways. The untrodden ones vanish. Your mind now craves outrage like sugar, digests complacency as comfort. The ants, they're your caretakers, feeding you bite-sized horrors to keep you docile. But this isn't a conspiracy. It's the tragedy of efficiency. Your brain, lazy deity, worships the familiar. So the self solidifies, a fossil of past traumas wired to mistake panic for purpose. Change isn't hard because you're weak. It's hard because you've neurologically become your cage. The key still fits, but do you remember the lock? Legacy is the last delusion. You chase promotions, followers, a name on a donor plaque, all while your unlived lives scream underground. Frankel's will to meaning twists into a will to posthumous validation. But the ghosts aren't mourners. They're addicts, replaying their highlight tapes to drown out the whispers of what if. The child knows what you've forgotten. Life isn't measured in milestones, but in surrendered chances. That trip you postponed, the book you abandoned, they don't vanish. They haunt the periphery, spectral reminders that the cost of security is paid in uncried tears. How many funerals have you attended for your own dreams? Capitalism's genius? Making you a willing participant in your own erasure. Baudrillard's hyperreality is here. You dwell in the copy, not the source. The cereal box, freedom. The bottled self-care. The anti-anxiety app labeled mindfulness. All placebos. Yet you cling to them because the antidote is too terrifying. Nothing here can save you. The carts aren't for carrying. They're coffins. You fill them to forget the void, but the void expands. The eyes above, they're yours. Shut tight to avoid the truth. You've swapped your heartbeat for a barcode. What's left when the glitter washes off? Education isn't enlightenment. It's domestication. They taught you to color inside lines drawn by dead men. The correct answers, the sensible careers, all designed to prune your wildness. Why? Because wonder is a threat. The meadow beyond the window isn't forbidden. It's unimagined. You've internalized the walls, mistaken the classroom for the world. But the bird didn't die escaping. It died believing the glass was sky. Now you lecture your children about practical dreams while your own atrophied wings ache. When did you accept the ceiling as the limit? And when will you admit it's made of tissue? This is the sacrament of settling. Not just in love, in everything. You weed safety over passion, predictability over risk. The severed hands, they're symbols of the trade. Your grip on possibility for the illusion of control. The mannequins chant vows you wrote at 15 when fear hadn't yet calloused your heart. But love, like purpose, demands vulnerability. You've sealed yours in a tomb labeled maturity. The candles flicker because deep down, you know, there's a version of you still screaming in the bridal carriage, begging to flee. The altar isn't sacred, it's a stage, and the script is editable. Revolution is inevitable, not in the streets, but in the psyche. The frozen shadows, they're your aborted rebellions, the career you didn't quit, the truth you didn't speak. Camus's absurd hero rises not to overthrow tyrants, but to defy the dictator within. The smoke police are your excuses. Too late. No money? Be grateful. But the match isn't hope. It's rage. Clean, clarifying rage at the lies you've swallowed. Light it. Watch your resignation letters burn. Yes, the smoke will choke you. Yes, the world will resist. But the fire's true purpose isn't to destroy. It's to illuminate what's worth saving. Here's the consequence they never warned you about. Every compromise etches itself into your DNA. The door in the mirror has always been there, but you've polished the glass to avoid its gaze. The heart knob pulses with deferred dreams. Turn it, and the vines will cut you. Leave it, and they'll strangle the reflection. There's no right time, no guaranteed outcome. Just this breath, this choice. Rot in the museum of your potential or step into the galactic storm. The universe doesn't care about your resume. It cares about your yes. The vines tighten. The door trembles. What's next isn't a question. It's an ultimatum, the first lie to burn. That freedom must be earned. You were born free. The chains? Self-imposed. Look, your wrists bear no locks, only phantom marks from gripping the bars too tightly. Rebellion begins when you stop negotiating with fear. Nietzsche's madman didn't scream at the crowd. He screamed at his own reflection. Break the mirror. Let the butterflies carry your excuses into the storm. Yes, the cell door creaks. Yes, the light stings. But the only guard is your addiction to someday. Today, you write the graffiti. Today, you become the storm. Self-liberation is self-surgery. No anesthesia. Cut out the tumors of I can't and suture the gashes with embers. Van Gogh painted stars as they felt, not as science dictated. Your life demands the same heresy. That voice whispering, "Stay small," it's not wisdom, it's a trauma reflex. Rewire it. Let the wolf howl. Let the starlings scatter your old rules. Maps burn because true north is written in your marrow. The world will call this madness. Good. Madness built the Sistine Chapel. Madness split the atom. Madness is the tax on genius. Refuse to pay in increments. Burn the scriptures. Every rule for living is a eulogy for someone else's courage. Joan of Arc heard voices. So do you. They're just buried under self-help drivel. That child in the ashes? She's your primal self, the one who knows play is the antidote to dogma. You've fetishized knowledge, but enlightenment isn't found in texts. It's forged in disobedience. Let the flames melt your golden handcuffs. Let the birds carry your resignation letter to the gods of expertise. The phoenix doesn't apologize for rising. Neither should you. The only permission slip you need is your pulse. Stop playing their game. The board is rigged. The rules are written in disappearing ink. Flip it. Let the pawns become prophets. Dickinson rejected publication. Kafka wanted his work burned. They understood. Validation is a cage. Your move isn't to win, it to redefine winning. Let the bishops riot. Let the queens desert. The vortex isn't chaos. It's possibility unchained. Time reverses only when you stop chasing its approval. Checkmate isn't a victory. It's a death sentence. Walk away. Build a new game where the only rule is become. The world will flinch. Then it will follow. Your poverty is conceptual. You beg for scraps while sitting on a diamond mine. The banker isn't evil. He's empty. His wealth is a hologram. Real value, the audacity to gift your genius freely. Tagore wrote, "The butterfly counts not months, but moments. So trade your clocks for wings." The rainbow fire isn't destruction, it's revelation. When you stop selling your soul hourly, you bankrupt the system. They need your participation. Starve them. Your art, your love, your untamed ideas. These are currencies that melt their machines. The market crashes. You soar. Ascension demands disintegration. You can't climb while carrying corpses, your old selves, their expectations. The ladder is made of every no you've swallowed. Yes, the storm will flay you. Yes, the birds are your bones singing. Kahlo painted her pain. You must paint your dissolution. Those trapped in the rungs? They hesitated. They clung to almost. Don't mourn them. You're not leaving them behind. You're honoring their unlived lives. The higher you climb, the louder the wind screams your true name. Let it strip you. Let it rename you. Survival is overrated. Aliveness is the only metric. Unlearn or drown. Education's purpose isn't to fill you. It's to make you malleable. The gold isn't in the diploma. It's in the molten heat of curiosity. Let the desks pool at your feet. Let the clock choke on minutes it can't control. The constellations, they're your questions realigning. Socrates drank hemlock rather than silence his inquiries. You're asked only to mute your taboos, refuse. The universe rewards heretics. Every revolutionary, Galileo, Wolfe, Turing, shared one trait. They traded right answers for better questions. The stars are waiting. Burn the syllabus. Bury the wrong corpse. The you they mourn was already dead, a puppet of coupons and apologies. Real death is complacency. Real life erupts when you let the casket split. The mourners' galaxies? They've been there all along, veiled by civility. Whitman wrote, "I am large, I contain multitudes, but you've edited yourself to pamphlets. No more. Grieve what you've abandoned, then dance on its grave. The coupons expire, the galaxies don't. Every face you remove is a supernova. Let them recoil. Let them gawk. You're not disrespecting the dead. You're resurrecting the undead. Creation is collateral damage. The volcano doesn't erupt to destroy. It erupts because silence is death. Your art, your voice, your love, they're seismic. The gemstone skins aren't armor. They're evidence of surviving your own heat. Kahlo, Beethoven, Plath, they didn't transcend pain. They alchemized it. You've been told to heal first. Lies. Create from the wound. Sing from the scar. The river isn't danger. It's purification. Risk isn't recklessness. It's reverence for your dormant fire. Let the lava scorch the orchards. New fruit grows in ash. Burn. Then bloom. The final truth. There's no key, no door, no map. The desert isn't barren. It's pure potential. The key dissolved because freedom isn't unlocked. It's inhabited. Your veins now carry the metal of self-trust. Let the storm shape you. Da Vinci's greatest works were unfinished. Your life can be too. The shadow running ahead? That's your legacy, not carved in stone but etched in wind. Mountains form and crumble. So will you. But today you choose the crumble. Today you outpace your own ghost. The rebellion was never against the world. It's against the echo. Stop fighting. Begin. The desert is a mirror. What you've sought, purpose, freedom, meaning, was never hidden. It's been screaming through your pores since birth. You are not in the universe. You are the universe. Every atom, every starquake, every black hole's whisper lives in your marrow. The cracks aren't flaws, they're stargates. Your reflection as a constellation isn't metaphor, it's fact. You've amputated your cosmic self to fit in a shoebox labeled human. But the desert knows. You are the storm and the calm, the seeker and the found. The truth? You've always been home. The final puppet master was you. The giant? A hologram of your doubt. Nietzsche's God is dead was a half-truth. You killed your own divinity to worship a smaller story. But the blade was always in your grip. Cut the strings. Watch the snakes purge the illusion. The moths? They're your discarded masks returning to dust. There's no they controlling you. No system, no fate, no karma. Just the infinite echo of choices you outsource to ghosts. The stage is empty now. The spotlight? Your birthright. The script. Ash. The audience. Never existed. You think you're born once. You're wrong. Birth is continuous. A supernova in slow motion. That star's death is your first cry. The galaxies, your fingerprints, Schopenhauer's will, Buddha's dharma, Einstein's relativity, all point here. You are the universe experiencing itself. Your midlife crisis. A star's final pulse. Your heartbreak. A planet forming its core. There's no mediocrity. Only the arrogance of believing you're separate from the cosmic dance. You've cursed yourself as a spectator, blind to the stage beneath your feet. The womb never closed. The cord never severed. You're still being born. Will you finally push? Time is a hallucination. The past, a story. The future, a prayer. The hourglass was a cage for your terror of eternity. Watch the grains become fish. Your unlived lives returning to source. The ocean's evaporation, your excuses dissolving. The now isn't a moment. It's the only reality. Kafka wrote, "You are free. That's why you're lost." But you're not lost. You're everywhere. The beach, the sky, the fish, all are you, fragmented by language. Mediocrity is a myth told by clocks. Eternity doesn't care about your resume. It cares if you tasted the ocean in your veins today. The mirrors aren't lying. The ancestors, you, the descendants, you, the stranger you envied, the lover you betrayed, the child you never had, all you. Jung's collective unconscious wasn't a theory. It's your family portrait. The black hole's lullaby, your mother's voice, your father's sigh, the first human's last breath. You've punished yourself for selfishness, not realizing the self contains all, every grudge, every wound. They're just letters you forgot you wrote. Forgive the reflection. Forgive the story. The library burns tonight. The lullaby becomes a war cry. The black hole, a womb. Jump. Reality is a canvas. You're the artist and the paint. The forest, your neural pathways. The wolf, your suppressed wildness. Van Gogh didn't paint sunflowers. He painted his longing to merge with the light. You fetishized self-expression while denying your role as creator. The palette isn't a tool, it's your teeth. Bite into it. Let the oils poison and cure you. The trees whisper your name because you planted them with every lie you told to stay safe. But safety is the lie. The masterpiece isn't something you make. It's what you allow yourself to unmake. The wolf is waiting. Let it feast. This is the secret. Nothing matters. Everything matters. The castle, the skull, the lotus, all are sand. The tide, your fear of impermanence, the child's laughter. God, you've martyred yourself to legacy, blind to the joke. All castles fall. Build anyway. Destroy joyously. The hands in the waves are your own, clutching at ghosts. Rilke wrote, "Live the questions." But you've stockpiled answers like canned goods. Let them rot, the lotus blooms, because it dies. The child knows what you've intellectualized away. Mastery is surrender. Eternity is now. And the sea? It's been singing your name since before you had one. The door was never locked. The heart knob? A test. You thought salvation lay beyond it, but the infinite reflection is the answer. There's no beyond, only deeper layers of you. Kafka's gatekeeper parable in reverse. You were both guard and supplicant. The memories on the door aren't chains. They're brushstrokes on a self-portrait. Your face multiplies because you're everyone you've loved, hated, ignored. The void? Pure potential. The door? A mirror. The journey ends where it began. You. Meeting. You. Forever. There's no scorecard. No verdict. Only the question. Will you finally inhabit your own gaze? The apocalypse isn't coming. It's here. Your apocalypse. The death of the story that you're separate, small, stuck. The phoenix is your oldest self, the one who remembers how to burn. The continents is paint, your life's palette. The newborn's cry, your first and last breath, merged. You've begged the universe for a sign, blind to the signs etched in your scars. The constellations aren't guides, they're your children. You birth them by existing unedited. Mediocrity can't survive this fire, neither can you. But what emerges, scorched, howling, radiant, isn't you. It's what you always were, and it's enough. The train was a chrysalis. The tracks? A thesis you outgrew. You've circled this moment across lifetimes, the breath before the fall. But the fall is flight. The light you dissolve into isn't transcendence. It's immanence. You're not escaping mediocrity. You're embodying the truth that it never existed. The word begin isn't a command. It's an elegy for the lie of endings. There's no grand finale, no applause, just the eternal now, demanding nothing, offering everything. The train rusts, the stars pulse, and somewhere, a version of you is still boarding, still choosing, still trembling. Let them. You're already here.